Guys, welcome to a brand new edition of the Football Economy podcast. I'm very excited to have Jaq, Chief Football Correspondent from Transfer.com, with me today. How are you, Jaq?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I've been trying to organise this for a while. I've been following you for a while. I thought I'd get you on, discuss the last 7 days in the football world and what has happened.
Yeah, no worries. Apologies for the slight delay on it. I think because with the window opening next month, December's always a bit of hassle in terms of all.
Absolutely. I guess it is. I guess it. And before we carry on, anybody watching, listening, please do subscribe and follow us. Help support the channel and independent kind of creators in the football world. So, Jaq, I want us to get straight into this. I want to touch upon Manchester United. I know you've been covering this. I'm going to break this down into multiple points. Let's start with the result on the weekend and what your thoughts around the result were. Then I'll give my kind of view on it.
Yeah, I think the game against Chelsea, that's the trouble with Man United, because you had the game against Chelsea where it's kind of like, do you know what? This isn't so bad. And maybe we do have a team here. Maybe we do have something. Maybe this isn't as bad. And then the next game against Bournemouth to lose almost 4-0 at home, it's almost worse, isn't it? Because you just don't know where you're coming and going. There's no consistency. You're doing well one game, and the following game you're losing to Bournemouth. It's a shocking result. And obviously, I've said I don't think the takeover, the takeover itself, the anticipation of the takeover is helping matters. And the fact is, you've got so many players who are like possibly leaving, and then you've got players who should have gone last year, winning like the Player of the Month award, etc. So it's a bit of carnage at the moment at Man United. Just sort of go further, I don't think Ten Hag should go, is my honest opinion about that. But yeah, to lose 3-0 against Bournemouth at home is pretty terrible. They're quite a good side, though. I know it's Bournemouth, but they're quite a good side.
What I did on the weekend, I watched the game, but I decided not to follow Twitter, because usually I follow it side by side as more.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And I watched the full 90 minutes, and I didn't think they were as bad as people were making out to be. Like, if you had not watched the game, you'd think they'd just been pounded. But what I felt, in my opinion, was it was the final third where they were breaking down a lot. You know, if you look at it, they weren't really testing the keeper. They'd get to the final third, overcross it, undercross it. Not much. Martial didn't offer much, which is a totally different topic altogether. But where they are getting caught is the transition. And teams have figured that out, that on the transition, that if you press them high, they can't play. And you can kind of, what Wolverhampton did in the first game, just go straight through in the middle. But what I'm trying to understand, and I'm trying to get somebody like yourself's opinion on this, is, and I saw this really good YouTube channel yesterday, who did a fantastic 20-minute tactical analysis on him. And I've seen this guy before. He does some great work. I forgot the name now. But
is that Man Dave?
No. This guy's pretty under the cover. He's not that big, but he really breaks it down. Spends a lot of time on the production, breaking it down. Suggestions, fantastic work. I'll send it to you in your DM.
That'd be good to have a look at, yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic what he does. And he only does a video like every other month or so, but he really breaks it down well. And what he said was that they've compiled a lot of wrong profiles of player, even under Ten Hag, to play a certain system. And then what's happening is they're reverting to players that can just get you a goal. So McTominay's purely there like a Fellaini, that is going to get you a goal. And Maguire's there because he's on form. And how much blame are you putting on the transfers? And how much blame would you put on, let's say, the manager and his selection and his tactics on the day?
Oh, that's a hard one. Man United have the worst recruitment in the world, maybe ever, I think. So that is obviously a big part of it. But the level of regression in the side, I can't think off the top of my head a player who's come into Man United and's got better.
Yeah.
You could argue Garnacho, I think he came from Atletico Madrid. He's got better because he's,
he's a
years old. But someone sort of, as a first teamer, have come to Man United and they've got do you know what? Like, we've got a lot of out of him, and you can go, yeah, that's the manager, but the fact there's been 5 whatever managers in the past 10 years, and this has always been the case. For the most part, there might be 1 or 2 examples. So for me, the overriding issue is the general culture of the club that has maintained there for a long, long time. And that's not to say, oh, it's entirely Glazer's fault or anything like that. Regardless of that, it's just the club in itself, and I think it's toxic. And I think players go in there wherever they are, Casemiro, Sanchez, and they're paid. The pay brackets are just way too much. They're not incentivized, and then the fact is they just succumb to the culture. I think it's if you go to a new workplace, you do kind of say you go into a new office or whatever, you do end up sort of becoming part of that culture. It's very difficult to go in and like change things. Like if they're all kind of bitchy and stuff, you kind of just become part of that, don't you? Because you want to fit in. And I think that's the overriding thing. So there's definitely got managers.
How do you resolve that then?
New ownership, new direction, just new mentality. And I think that's why I think the Ratcliffe partial takeover, which is also kind of taking over football operations, has been one of the biggest things. But with Ten Hag, I think he's a competent manager, but Man United were just so... They didn't know what to do because they just spent so much money and did awful. So they went to this guy going, like, you just do what you want. Here's a load of money. But the trouble was, he's not good. Ten Hag's an awful recruiter. He got terrible play. So yeah, I think it's I suppose a bit of both. But you know, the one constant in it is the club in itself, and I think that's the biggest issue, really.
You know, I'm just coming on to the point of wages. I think because they've been going in a downhill spiral for so long, to attract talent, they have to pay the wages. Because I feel that's the only pull they have. They don't have anything else, but we can pay you $350 a week, for example. Number one. Number two is I feel you're right regarding recruitment. But if you look at it from a cultural aspect, if you've got a lot of bitchy players, whoever comes in will have to go through the same process of trying to get rid of them over multiple windows. If you take Arteta as an example, who went over 3-4 windows trying to get rid of him, most of the players he got rid of, they wrote off as a loss. I forgot the lad from France they signed for 72 million. They just released him. What was he called? Was it Pep? Pepe? Yeah, Pep. Was it Pepe?
Something like that, yeah. I think it might be.
Yeah, remember 72 million they paid for him.
Yeah.
They just released him in the summer, and that took a process. Ozil they released, Aubameyang went, so many others went. Where the club is, what works in Ten Hag's favour is a takeover, because as we all know, whoever comes in, what the Glazers don't want to do is sack someone and then try bringing somebody in and he doesn't match whoever's taking over football operations, and then you're back to square one. And number two is that no top manager is going to Man United when there's a takeover going on, because what happens to Thomas Tuchel will happen here as well. If you remember,
yeah, that's true.
You know, you'll end up in a situation where, let's say, I'm just making a name up, let's just say De Zerbi takes over at Man United and Ratcliffe doesn't fancy him and he wants Hansi Flick. He just got himself out of a job for no reason. So I think that works in Ten Hag's favour. But do you think, look, it's a results-based business, right? We can all talk about projects and we can talk about, tactical awarenesses or whatever. But do you think he can survive?
Ten Hag?
Yeah.
100%, precisely on your point there. But I think the new ownership, the optics of coming in, if they come in, Ten Hag's not doing too well, it carries on, they come in, they sack him, they bring in someone immediately without, sorting out the recruitment and getting everyone settled, then if that manager is terrible towards the end of the season, that's on them. As bad as it is to say, if they keep Ten Hag, it's almost not their fault. This new being new head of operations and the refresh, if they come in, they take time to settle, whatever Ten Hag does wrong is almost from the previous ownership. So in a pragmatic sense, I think they're going to have to keep him. I also think the amount of money that he spent on his players just means that, it doesn't make sense. He spent almost $500 million. So it doesn't make, obviously there come a point, you've got Bayern Munich, I think, tomorrow night. Liverpool on Saturday, and I think if you'd be good at this point to get a point out of one of them. You never know, but I think at this point, but if that continues up until Christmas, then he might know.
Jaq, what I don't understand is, and it really bugs me this. Why not just, if you're going to start losing games, right? Let's say at the moment he's wise enough to know that, look, we might lose. There's a high chance we might lose 3 of the next 5 as an example, right?
Yeah.
Or over the next 4 weeks, it's looking tough. Why not then just say, these are my players. This is how we're going to play. If we get pumped, we get pumped. We're going to play a certain, which I think he tried to do a little bit against Bournemouth. I think he's stuck in 2 minds where he's trying to be a bit pro and he wants. Do you know what I'm trying to say? If you look at Postecoglou, I know it's early days, but we'll just use Postecoglou as an example. He, against Chelsea, played a high line with 9 men. I know in a bigger club, the scrutiny, you will not survive that. It was a bit stupid as well. But he went to City with 4 fullbacks at the back and took the game to City. And it reminded me a bit of Solskjaer. I remember Solskjaer going to City and he took the game on the counter straight to him. I remember we should have been 4-1 up or something at the time. And I feel with Ten Hag, he's stuck between I'm scared of getting punked, but I should be playing. I think he's in a bit of 2 minds.
I do struggle to watch Ten Hag. I struggle to recall times where Ten Hag has sat at a team and they've dominated a side. And I think even a majority of your wins this season have come when you've played quite poorly. I think the biggest example was really the first game of the season against Wolves. And it's almost like a reliant on sort of world-class moments, or Bruno against Fulham pulling out the bag and stuff. But yeah, I do agree. I think even Gary Neville said the other week as well, it's hard to pinpoint an identity, and Postecoglou is different to that because he's come in and almost immediately he's changed. You know what they're about, Spurs now. Even if they do lose games, as they did against Chelsea, was it? Yeah. There's still, what they're about, and still Man United. There's no identity and stuff. And I couldn't tell you what Ten Hag's game plan is. I know he wants to be the best transition coach in the world, but there's no, I think with most Premier League sides, you can kind of have a rough idea, but it kind of, as you say, interchanges. And I suppose it does speak a bit about him being a bit conflicted about what he actually wants. Yeah.
Because, as you know and I know, the Premier League is a different beast altogether. Teams work here out very quickly. It's not like Spain or Germany where there's a big gulf. A bottom team like Everton can turn over a bigger team. Luton can nearly beat City. These things can happen. And I think the second season syndrome, where you've got to keep evolving tactically, might have caught up with him, or managers have started to suss him out. But what's your take on this ever-ending next week takeover, and where do you think this is up to right now?
So yeah, I think it seems that it's a matter of the lawyers and dotting a few, crossing a few T's and etc. But I don't think the club realise how detrimental it is to not have it sort of finalised, and it's impacting their season, and it's gone on long enough, and they must be so frustrated because where's the sense of urgency about it? And I appreciate it's a multi-billion-pound deal, and there's going to be very, very complex. But at the same time, I don't know why they briefed reporters that it would be a month sooner than it actually was. If anything, you'd want to overshot it. You'd say next year. They should have said next year, a month ago. So yeah, probably January. It'll be done by January, rather than this constant delaying, which is very frustrating as a fan. I don't support Man United, but I imagine it must be you just want to have it signed off, and it's just these constant delays for whatever reason. It's a matter of when, not if. I've asked club on it a couple of times, only twice, but they don't give guidance to me on it. So they said they won't give comment on their strategic review, which basically means, they're not going to say when the announcement is. It's all been kept close to their chest or briefed to national reporters or reporters who have got in touch with Ineos, etc. So it must be stressful, I guess, as a fan to have to see next week and stuff. And it's just like, come on, you just want a bit of clarity. And I think that's going to have an impact for staff inside the club as well and players.
Yeah, I think it's been the problem you've got with it is this is the first takeover. I'll call it a takeover just to kind of simplify it.
Yeah.
You've got of a big club. Usually you get smaller clubs being sold and it kind of flies under the radar a little bit, or there's not enough coverage on it. Obviously with a team like Manchester United, there's just everybody wants to break it first. A lot of people monetize it where clicks, X, Y, Z, and kind of becomes one big snowball effect. Just to finish on Manchester United, what are you hearing from a transfer point of view? What I heard this morning, I know Samuel Lecker said regarding Varane, Casemiro, Martial. I think Ornstein said about Martial. What are your findings? What do you think they'll do, or what do you think will happen regarding transfers?
The last transfer story I did was on Man United was the sounding out of Andre. In anticipation, if Casemiro leaves, he'd be one of the couple.
He's from South Brazil, isn't he? Am I right?
Yeah, he plays in Brazil. He was looked at by
looking at him as well, I think.
Liverpool liked him, and he'll move in January. But it's just a matter of, I think Man United might miss out because he can move technically this month, and the amount of time it'll take for Casemiro to go to Saudi Arabia, which seems kind of inevitable. I've heard a few bits, but I'm kind of just not really saying much at the moment on it because there's a lot of confusion around the window and what's going to happen, who's going to take over. And I just feel that it'd be kind of fruitless to say that because when things are so likely to change anyway, I don't think they're going to be that busy. I think they're probably going to sell to buy. I think with how the takeover's gone and how prolonged it's been, they're going to have to sell to buy. I think Ten Hag even said it last week that they're not going to be, making any sort of additions and stuff. So, we'll look for the loan market, but it'd be a matter basically of how much they can recoup from if Casemiro goes. I personally don't think Sancho will. I think it'd be really hard for him to go because his wages are so high, and I don't think he's worth his wages. So this is going to be like a bit of a Lukaku situation where not many clubs are really going to, unless he goes to the Saudi Pro League, is the only thinking. But other than that, I can't see any club willing to take him on with his wages. So yeah, I say it probably just depended on transfers for this window anyway.
How many do you see outgoings realistically?
I think probably Casemiro is likely to go, and I think Varane will be likely to go for game time, especially if the Euros coming up. Is he retired from international football?
He has retired yet.
He retired. So those two, the former Real Madrid players, Sancho, I'm not too sure. I think they don't think get. Who? Sorry,
Van de Beek.
Oh, Christ. Him. Yeah, if they can get rid of him finally, then yeah, that'd be a bit of a miracle, won't it, if they get rid of Van de Beek? Yeah. Again, he's probably on ridiculous wages. I don't know. He's probably on 120 a week or something, and it's like, no one can afford it. That's the trouble. So, yeah, maybe they'll just loan him out or something and be willing to pay 70% of his wage. I don't know. But he has to go because otherwise, he hasn't played a game in 6 months or something. So.
Oh, no, he's not. Just coming on to Newcastle then.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you see where's it kind of over the last week or so? Where do you see it dipping off? What's, I know injuries, is it just purely injuries? Is it more than injuries?
Yeah, Newcastle fans, for some reason, if you say it's injuries and it's fatigue, they go, no, you're allowed to criticise a bad performance. You are, but you're also able to look at the reasons behind it. We're playing we're into the League Cup quarterfinal, Champions League, and playing the Premier League. And I think we were a bit naive in the transfer market, and I think it's caught up to us. It's our fault, and we're not playing well. But I think, in terms of to personify, you can look at Kieran Trippier, who's so reliable. He's just he's almost flawless in a way. I'm not saying he does world-class things all the time. It's not about that. He's just flawless of what he does and his football intelligence. And to see him the last 2 games play like he has, he just speaks of fatigue. And so that's what it's down to. And, the Premier League this season in particular, I don't know about you, but it's pretty crazy, right? And I always say that a lot about Premier League seasons, but I think Aston Villa are third, Man City are fourth, Liverpool are back up now, Chelsea, I don't know, and it's just very, very unpredictable. Most fans before the season started didn't think we'd finish top four, and I think we'll probably finish top fifth or sixth. We're going to lose games, and I look forward to having Sven Botman back and seeing what we do in January. But
let me just switch that then around, right? So I'm going to use United as an example here. So United are badly run, but not well planned, and all over the place. Newcastle have got a structure, have got good people running it. Yeah. So why are they in this position where they knew they're in the Champions League and they are undercooked so much on a squad?
I think, when we came into during the transfer window, our two biggest signings were Harvey Barnes and Sandro Tonali. Harvey Barnes has just come back from injury, or he's back next week. So that's just been the majority of the season. And obviously Tonali, no one would have expected that. And then also Sven Botman, who's our best defender, being out. So it's just a multitude of things, really. I think we should have spent and improved on the position where Almiron plays. But yeah, I think we were perhaps a bit naive. I think we were caught between it's a good dilemma to have, but I don't think they anticipate to be in the Champions League. I think they thought we'd get sixth, because we finished 12th the season before. I thought they'd get about sixth and try and get Europa League and stuff. So we've kind of shot past that already as part of our 5-year plan. So it's almost
one planning.
Well, I mean, I guess it's good planning in the sense that we got Champions League when we didn't expect to. But perhaps, we bought Lewis Hall and Livramento rather than purchasing players for the here and now. We've bought, I'm not having a go at it because Livramento's been fantastic. Because those signings, when they were made, were very much signings for in 3 years' time. And perhaps, I think it's just fans perhaps wanting players for today, a first team right back or first team left back or whatever, rather than buying English talent that can be brilliant in a few years. So we'll get there eventually. I'm not, so panic or anything like that. But I think the owners have just been a bit more looking ahead to the future rather than, right, we need to get, finish Champions League again this season, which is kind of fair enough, I suppose.
But do you think fans would accept finishing sixth? I don't think he'd be able to save his job if he finishes sixth.
No, I think it'd be all. I suppose it's all in context, isn't it? Because you can finish sixth, and be hampered by injuries, and be unlucky in a few results, or you can finish sixth and lose 5-0 to Wolves and this kind of thing. So, I don't think the owners are going to be sacking Eddie Howe on the basis of finishing sixth. They might if he finishes 11th or 10th or 9th. They may think, and they get knocked out of the Champions League, which could happen next week. But I think sixth place is about what people expected. And Champions League group knockout stages would have been really nice, but we got plunged into the worst possible group, unfortunately. And
I think Europa League would be good for Newcastle.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that next season at all. Obviously, when you've had Champions League, as it's you just want more. It's not quite the same, is it? Kind of thing.
No, but also, even if you look at the Europa League, once you get to the last 16, there's some good teams. And for a team like Newcastle that haven't had much European games, I think it's a fantastic competition to keep playing and building on. Atletico Madrid built a whole club on playing Europa League and getting used to European lights, and then moved to a level up and went into Champions League. I think look at West Ham. They love it, finals. Oh, they absolutely love it, don't they?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say no to it at all. I just think, to be knocked out of Champions League can be hard to say. But when we do get into, if we do finish third, which is probably the most likely scenario, then we should give it a go. But unfortunately, Liverpool's in the Europa League, so I imagine we'll just get knocked out by them in the semi-finals or something. But yeah, no, it'd still be good to be in that, in a European competition, and we haven't won a trophy in about 60 years.
It gives a good opportunity. Coming up, how do you see the title race playing out then?
Oh Christ, I don't know. Man City do this sometimes where they just be a bit shit around November. And and then they just come back up. But I just think Liverpool might do it. I mean, I just think they just might.
Not
do it.
Villa.
No, I don't think Villa. I think Villa are in form, and I think they'll do really well. And I think they could well finish top 4. But I think Liverpool could really do it this year. I think Arsenal, it's just those games that they had at the weekend and stuff just makes me question them a little bit about getting this title and stuff.
And he's going to have to do something like Arsenal. He's spent that much money. He's been there long enough. Either you got to put up or shut up now.
Yeah, I mean, they did really well last season. I don't think anyone expected that. But it'd be, I think, face to face at Arsenal versus Liverpool. I think Liverpool win. I think Liverpool win those games or play better. I just think they're a better team on their day, especially. But I know their defence has been a bit shaky recently. But I think, my money is on Liverpool at this point.
And my last question, what are your hot takes regarding the transfer window? Who should we be looking out for? What do you see happening?
Bloody hell. I think that the Saudi...
We're going into the Premier League more here.
Oh, okay. In the Premier League. Let's have a think. I think, we've got the stuff about the sort of number 9 floating around. Chelsea need a number 9. Arsenal needs a number 9. So potentially that would be the biggest, Oshinham or Ivan Toney, although I don't know if maybe he'll stay until the summer.
What about Vlahovic?
Yeah, him as well. So that would probably be the crux of it. I don't really know, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be a mad one. I mean, I say that. Pochettino said press conference today that he's after 3 more players. Another striker, another midfielder, and another defender. So they maybe Todd will be quite busy again.
They are one team, Chelsea, that when they were took over, nothing should have changed. They were a well-run, well-oiled machine. They had a very good world-class manager. And I don't understand how the new owners went in there, spent 800 mil and make them look worse than where they were.
It's just there's something to be said for organic, just to be organic and to have things change in a sort of timely fashion where it just sort of happens sort of naturally. But they've spent too much money on too many names too quickly. And this was always going to be the fallout of it. They've done some things well. They actually got back about 300 million over the summer in player sales. Yeah, a lot from Saudi, and running Mason Mount is another one. And so, but yeah, no, I think the transfer strategy's been naive, isn't it? Really, and
because I watched Man U, and their mids were like nearly a quarter of a billion. And Casado and Enzo, I was like, wow, like usually we league with that kind of middle.
But Enzo for Benfica in the World Cup was absolutely amazing, and Caicedo for Brighton last season. He's a more talented player than Alexis McAllister, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But they've come in and they've just been thrown in and just play, and
there's Lavia as well.
Forgot about him. Yeah, Lavia as well. Yeah. So it's just a bit chaotic, isn't it? And that's what I mean. You need to have a good culture at the club.
When I look at their transfers and I look at the team that Tuchel had, and I just think they should have just spent 150 million and bought Osimhen and everything was fine. Just leave the team where it was. They just ripped up a team for no reason. And they've ended up with a team that's worse than they inherited by spending more money.
It's been a pretty monumental collapse when you think they won Champions League 2-3 seasons ago. When that team, was flawed. It wasn't brilliant, but they had the nuts and bolts there. So yeah, they've gone about it the wrong way entirely.
Look at their keeper situation. They've ended up with Brighton's number 2 as their number 1. Sanchez was not even Brighton's number 1, and he's become their main keeper.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it? But as I say, apparently they want 3 more players in, so maybe that will help them. I don't know, but
they should sign De Gea. Honestly, them or Newcastle should sign De Gea. It would resolve a lot of their issues.
I wouldn't be against Newcastle signing De Gea, so I think he's better than Dubravka by a country mile.
Well, yeah, I think he would resolve a lot of issues, experience, calm head. And because some of these keepers, I was like looking at him, I was like, Sanchez. And I was like, wow, like, how have they gone from the keepers they've had to this situation? And then I looked at their fullbacks, I looked at their centre backs. The striker, Jackson, he's not a Chelsea striker. No way. He's nowhere near a Chelsea level striker.
Not clinical, is he? And I think,
No.
similar to Darwin Núñez in being very good, very active and creating a lot of chances and being in the right place, but essentially just not having that cutting edge in front of goal, which is what you need from a striker, really. And I think maybe in today's game, in terms of recruitment and stuff, they tend to overcomplicate things. They want versatility in the striker. They want him to play on the wing and down the middle, and they want him to be multi-footed and be able to do all these things. But you need to be able to score 20 goals a season in all competitions, and that's 80% of their job, But Jackson's very young, you just don't know. But again, it's the pressure. It's a bit like Rasmus Højlund, who looks exceptional, by the way. I think he's absolute huge talent.
They just not give him service. That's
It's a champion.
problem.
Yeah, it's just, and he hasn't scored in the Premier League, but he's a great player. But it's because the amount of pressure that's on him. I seen him in Champions League games for Man United. I think he was absolutely exceptional.
Yeah, it's just they can't give him service. Any striker needs service.
And just with strikers don't score 5 games in a row, it gets to their head as well. And then that's the issue, isn't it? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And if people want to follow you, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
On X or Twitter, we call it @JAC_Talbot, TALBOT.
Jack, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll do this again very soon.
Thank you, mate. Take care.
Thank you.